Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Square One podcast. We're taking our guests back to square one where they first started their careers or their businesses, and we're going to learn from their failures. Square One's brought to you by Omni Home Services, which represents Chattanooga Home Inspector, Elevate Home Staging Design, Nuclear Pest Control, Radon Eraser, and hopefully some more business entities in the future. I'm your host, Malcolm Godwin. Thank you for listening. Today we have the one and only Madison McCann as our guest with SpeakEasy Productions.
Thanks for having me on the other side of the mic.
So if you are in Chattanooga and you know anything about podcasting, you know Madison's name. You know that she has been here for 20 or so episodes.
This will be like 25, 26.
25, 26.
Yeah.
And then Madison also is just who makes us sound a little less, dumb. She can't really do much about the accent. But you do make us sound good, and thank you for that. So, Madison, for our listeners out there, this is probably, to me, one of the most impactful guests we've had. Because you're our audience. You are an aspiring entrepreneur that not only is just going down a path because of money, but you're following a passion. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah. And my passion is about being a business owner. And I just kind of fell into podcast production.
You enjoy that part, right?
Yeah. I've learned to enjoy it. Whenever I first started, it took me so long, like an embarrassing amount of time to edit podcasts, but I just have honed that skill. So
you enjoy it now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think a lot of us are guilty with and my wife says, I don't know what I'm passionate about. I just know life's going to be a little easier with more money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. That's why we do, whatever we do to make that money.
Yeah. And I have, so I'm engaged. My fiance, Logan, we have kind of this competition going on.
Yeah, tell us about it.
So he is in the trades. He is a Boilermaker. And ever since we've been together, he's made like twice as much money as I have, which for me is embarrassing because like I have a college degree. That's what I was sold on. Like you go to college, you get a job, you make a lot of money, and people who are in the trades like don't make as much. And that is not the case.
Not the case.
Mm-hmm. So now we have a competition on who can make the most money.
Yes, I love that. If you don't have a competition with your partner about who's going to make more money, mm-hmm. then neither of you are going to make more money. So,
right.
So good. That is the coolest damn competition I've ever heard of.
And I know we're going to get into this about like time management because I have a full-time job too, but that's really what it boils down to is he travels for work a lot. And so we've decided, for the next 5 years, we're just going to grind it out. So that just like, I just wanted to give some context into like, what is motivating me to do this.
And that's money or the competition itself?
Both.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. So let's get right into it. You do have a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
And SpeakEasy Productions is like your baby.
Yeah.
How do you find time? What system do you use to be able to do a full-time job? Because let's face it, a full-time hustle typically comes from a side hustle, and then that side hustle becomes a full-time hustle. Mm-hmm. How do you find the time to do that?
You just got to make it. I work long days. Like today will be a 12, 14-hour day for me, just between full-time job, going to a networking event, editing, like you just have to do it. But as far as specifics, if I have to do something, it goes on my calendar. And every night, the night before, I'll look at my calendar and I will go in my notes app or my reminders app and just like plan out my day. So I'm prompted each hour, like what I'm supposed to be doing.
Is this a digital calendar or a paper?
No, not paper. If it's not on my phone, it's not happening.
Okay. I love the idea of like, are you reviewing that when you go to bed, before you go to bed?
Mm-hmm.
I think I read something somewhere that they said there's some power in like and I try to write it down, but like when you physically write down or at least look at what is on your plate for the next day, you sleep easier.
Yeah.
Because in your mind, you're not like, oh shit, what am I going to do? I got to cram this in there. I know what I got to do. So sleep easy, rest, and then seize the day.
Right. That's exactly it. Because I tried this whole like no blue light, being off your phone, but it just caused more anxiety for me because there was the unknown of what tomorrow was going to be like. So I know it's almost like I need to know what my day looks like or it's not going to get done.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the plan? What's the future? Is it only to do SpeakEasy Productions?
My plan is to grow the business, and eventually I would like to, hire people to do editing or help me with like sales or something. I don't know what the future of SpeakEasy holds exactly, but I do know that I want to grow the business.
Yeah. How else are you going to make more money than your husband, right?
Right.
Or fiance, sorry.
Yeah. Well, we're getting married in September, so you can just say husband.
Well, congratulations. Where are you going for your honeymoon?
Alaska.
That's interesting. My grandmother used to tell me if I ever get to go anywhere, go to Alaska.
That's what everyone says to us. They're like, oh, this is going to be the best trip of your life. And I'm like, well, I hope it's not downhill from here.
That's fair. So, Madison, our whole thing is talking about failure. Can you share with us a big failure that you've had in life and what you've learned from it?
Yeah, I want to share two. One is more general because it's happened a lot. So I don't want to give like a specific example, but I used to take, and sometimes still do, take things way too seriously. Like people would say, hey, I'm interested in starting a podcast. Can we talk about it? And I would set up a meeting with them at a coffee shop or something, and they wouldn't show up. And I would like hate this person. Like they're dead to me,
Yeah.
And because it just felt like such a disrespect of
Slap
my
in the face.
time.
Yeah, it is.
And eventually, I don't know, I just had like a complete mindset shift. And I think it actually happened after the episode with John Lawrence.
Shout out.
Shout out John Lawrence. Because he talked about meditating in the mornings, and I started doing that for a little bit. I don't do that now. I should, but once I started doing that, literally the first time I meditated, I had like some kind of awakening where I was just like, oh, it's not me. They weren't doing that to me. They were doing that because of something going on in their life, or they don't have respect of their own calendar or whatever. I can't take it personally. I was, and that was the mistake, but you just really have to let it go.
That's not really the failure that I was going to want you to talk about, and we'll get back into that, but you're 100% right. Nobody respects your time as much as you do. And you know what? That's just the fucking truth, and we have to get over that, because I get it. I don't expect anybody else to respect my time as much as I do. I understand. But at the same time, like, you don't have to disrespect my time. Like, you're going to fucking
why did you
ghost
reach
me?
out to me
Right.
and say, I'm interested in starting a podcast. Let's talk about it.
And you're ghosting me? That's some bullshit.
Yeah, like you just didn't show up, and I don't know. It really bothered me, and now I'm just like, whatever.
So what do you do?
I'm glad that they did that before we started working together.
Oh, yeah. What a learning experience before you had a
Yeah.
So what do you do now when somebody like schedules an appointment with you and ghosts you?
That doesn't happen anymore. Because I follow up with them before I go. I'll say, give me your email. I'll send you a calendar invite. We're on the calendar. They've accepted. And then the day before, I'll say, hey, like, we're still on for tomorrow, right? I'm looking forward to meeting with you. And they confirm. And if I don't hear back from them, which doesn't happen, everyone usually responds and is like, yeah, we're still on. And then they do show up, or they're like, oh no, I need to reschedule or cancel or whatever. And I'm like, cool.
So what do you do when they say, hey, you just reschedule them?
Actually, so I had someone reach out to me yesterday, and they were like, hey, I want to reschedule our meeting or cancel. Like, it's not a good time to talk about starting a podcast. Like, I have a lot going on. And I'm like, this doesn't have to be like a business meeting. Like, I kind of just wanted to hear about what you have going on and get to know you. And the idea for me behind that is like, if I can get in front of them once and like build that relationship with them, they will come back later. Now is just not the right time.
Sure. Very positive approach to that. I'm on the opposite end of that, just so you know. So when people, and I would assume that nobody is listening to this podcast that I'm guilty of this for, but if you schedule an appointment with me and you reschedule like last minute, I'm so guilty to say, no, I'm not taking another fucking meeting. Like if you're, again, disrespecting my time, and I understand things come up, you know, like yesterday, one of our oldest kid out was deathly sick. I get that. But it's not the right time to do that. That's not an excuse. Or like, hey, something came up. That's cool. Nothing's going to come up between us in the future. Just so you know, it's going to be very, very, very fucking hard for you to schedule a second appointment with me.
Yeah. So that was my initial reaction to this is like, okay, F you, like whatever.
Sure.
But I view it as like an opportunity to flex my sales muscles, which I don't really have a lot of experience doing. Like I don't see myself as a salesperson. If someone wants to do a podcast, they'll do it or they won't do it. And I'm not going into this meeting thinking like I need to convince her to do a podcast.
But kinda?
No, I really just need to understand more of like the hesitation behind it. And if someone is like, I just don't have the time to do it. Well, that's my whole job is to like take the time away from you doing it.
That's why we're meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know. I just want to kind of fill it out. And I also want to be seen as the person in Chattanooga that is the podcast expert. So the more people that I can get in front of.
Are you not already?
I think a lot of people just don't know about it or about me.
Cool.
So the more people that I can get in front of, the better in the long run.
Absolutely.
Because someone's going to say to her, like, I'm thinking about starting a podcast. And she's going to go, you need to talk to Madison.
I like it. Different approach than I take. So good. Congratulations for you for making the right way. And in fact, I love the fact that you talked about meditation. 2024 is the year that I'm manifesting like positive shit to happen. Cash flow, positive thoughts, all that. So I love that you're meditating now. One of the things also that I loved about, you is not too long ago, and we're going to get into, what is podcast production. I even said like, hey, Madison, is there a way that we can, shorten our podcast or like lessen the fee that you charge? And you said, no, man, I don't want to associate my brand with something that's of less quality. And in fact, I love that so much. I said, absolutely, let's keep on doing this. Let's just floor it because you don't find that quality these days. But that being said, what is podcast production, editing, distribution? Like, because I don't know, but I do know that you do that. So thank you.
Well, that's my whole job is so that the host, like my client, doesn't really know what I'm doing. You just see, you come in the studio, you put the mic on, you talk to your guest, and then you see that the episode is published. Like, done. So everything that makes that happen is my job. So being in the studio and making sure that the recording process is going smoothly. And I usually take notes during the episodes just so that it's easier for me to edit later on and write the show notes for each episode. And that's another part. I'll write the descriptions, make sure that it's keyword optimized for SEO purposes, and then actually editing the podcast. And I do what I call like comprehensive editing, which is like content. Because a lot of people will say they're a podcast editor and they're just doing like sound treatment, which is great. But whenever we have a guest who says something that's maybe a little inappropriate, or maybe a host that says something that's a little inappropriate.
Oops. Madison had to edit out me calling a political person a jackass earlier.
Yeah.
So don't edit this one out, okay? We're not saying who.
I'll leave that. Okay. But things like that really the listener shouldn't be hearing.
Understood.
So I do a complete edit of the episodes and removing filler words and, just mistakes that happen. And then the actual distribution of the episode so that it gets out to the listeners.
How many do you edit out?
Not all of them.
Okay.
Just whenever it becomes excessive and distracting.
Okay.
But it's natural. People say, they
It is.
say, you know.
Unless
like-
you're Vincent Phipps, then you have no ums in your category. Or not category, in your
Vocabulary.
vocabulary.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for. You don't have to edit that part out either. So Madison, before we move on, or as we move on.
I know you want to talk about that other failure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, hold on. Let me preface this a little bit. You're going to talk about a client. We are all guilty of small business, like, and I make fun of people too. I'm like, hey, you're saying you got a customer that says, I want to give you this money. And you're like, nah, I'm good. We are all, well, you should do that because that's the whole purpose of doing this. But we all learn that we should be firing some customers. We should be firing some referral sources. Tell us about this learning experience of yours.
Yeah, I don't even want to say that the failure was that I should have fired this client. The failure was that I shouldn't have worked with them from the beginning.
Come on.
And whenever I first started my business, I was so hungry just to get podcasts in my portfolio that I was like, you want to start a podcast? Let's work together. And I would make it work. Like I would sacrifice on my end to make it work when really I should just vet people better. So we started working together and it was just sometimes disrespectful of my time or my skill set. And specifically, there was one time where I knew as far as like a podcast strategy thing, we disagreed on it. And they were like, no, like this is what I want to happen. And I was like, okay, I mean, like you're the client, you're paying for it. And really, I should have pushed and explained better why we shouldn't have done that. And then they came back 6 months later and they were like, hey, can you like fix that? Like, that's not what I wanted to do. And I was like, no. Well, one, you're not my client anymore. Like we haven't worked together in 4 months, but.
So what have you learned from that? How to vet people better? Yeah.
Don't just be like, oh, you want to do a podcast? Let's do a podcast.
Sure.
It's like, first of all, like what's the goal of the podcast? What are you going to be talking about? And just making sure that it aligns with my values too. And a big part of what has worked with other clients is that they view me as a member of the team and not as someone that they're just like outsourcing work to. You look at me like I'm a member of like the square one team.
Yeah, I was going to say like that's bad?
No, I want that.
Oh, okay.
I want that.
Okay.
But they saw me as just like a freelancer, like.
Got you.
And it seems like such a small difference whenever I say it, but it really impacts the way that they talk about you and to you. And it affects everything that we're working on.
Yeah, I don't want to sit in the same room and have you disrespect me. Right? Yeah. You know, I don't know the vetting process specifically, and for everybody it's different. My wife, I love her very much, Carrie, she manages short-term rentals. And, you know, in the very beginning, she's like, hell yeah, I'm taking on anybody because I want the money and the experience. But she took on somebody that was like, and I'll put my foot in my mouth because I messed up here, but like this person wouldn't allow, they were there so many specific days of the week, limiting her ability to make money. And they were just so like odd. So like, they're like, no, we don't want children here. And it's like, how are you going to rent to like people and just not have children? And then the biggest thing where I put my foot in my mouth is they wouldn't allow dogs. They wouldn't allow animals. But when I went over there one day to do some maintenance or something, I got caught on the Ring camera, and I was saying, I thought this place wasn't pet friendly. There's fucking dog hair all over the place. And they relayed that back to her later that was like, hey, you know, this is how we justify it. I'm like, but this is bullshit. Really, because, and again, I think I eventually agreed with it, it is bullshit. How are you going to feel, because you're a big dog person, right? How are you going to feel that you had to leave your dogs at home, but you show up in the place,
right? Yeah.
I mean, it's covered in dog hair and smells like dog urine.
Like I couldn't bring my dog, but someone else could.
Right. And that's what, so properly vetting people is, I'll get off that tangent there, but properly vetting people is a learning experience.
Yeah, it was just like a whole, we'll get back to you whenever we're ready to record again. And it's like, my schedule's not open to you whenever. And
that's difficult.
Yeah. So I've changed some things in my contracts and learned from that whole experience.
Well, learning is part of it. Just a funny question. What's the craziest podcast that you edit?
A crazy podcast?
Yeah, like murder mystery or like,
No, all of my clients are like business, career related. Yours is probably the craziest.
Oh shit. Okay.
Just because like you guys are like fun with it and you say crazy things sometimes.
We say crazy things and you edit them out most of the time.
No, I don't.
Okay. So talking about crazy things, I know at one time we talked about like getting a mobile podcast production studio.
Yeah.
Was that just kind of some bullshit thought, or is that still something that's on your radar possibly?
I think we could take the podcast mobile.
Okay.
Yeah. It's hard because like it affects the quality a little bit, but I think we could do it.
Okay.
It's not crazy.
If you have a crazy van out there or, an old bus, hit Madison up because...
a trailer.
A trailer?
Yeah. Logan wants to make a podcast trailer. And I'm like, I don't think my clients and their guests are going to want to get in like the back of a trailer. And
what kind of trailer are we talking about? Like, are you talking about like a little RV or like an enclosed trailer?
No, like an enclosed trailer.
Logan, you're a little crazy there, sir.
But imagine me driving down the road and it says SpeakEasy Productions and like people are gonna be like, a podcast trailer.
Okay, I could get sold on this idea. Do you have any renderings, like drawings of what?
No, we haven't gone that far.
All right. Well, Logan, as soon as you get an idea of what you're thinking of, hit me up because I think we could work with you on something like that. Madison, tell us about your morning routine.
Okay, I mean, it's not really anything special, but I wake up and we got a dog a couple months ago. So I'll wake up, take her for a walk, and just get some sun in my eyes. I listened to that on the Andrew Huberman podcast. Do you know Huberman Labs?
I've heard of it, yeah, sure.
Okay. He's a neuroscientist, and it's all like health and wellness. And just the effects that has on your body and mind, getting out first thing in the morning, literally getting the sun in your eyeballs. So I try to do that and then make sure that I eat a breakfast every morning because I always feel better whenever I have a full breakfast, and drink my coffee and get the workday started.
The sun was shining through the window this morning so bright when the kids were getting ready for school. And I'm like, I got to get some sunshine in my eyeballs.
Yeah.
And then my wife said, you shouldn't look directly at the sun. I was like, it's great. It's working.
You don't have to look directly at the sun.
Yeah, no, I realize that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's, yep. Okay. Madison, can you tell us, our listeners, if somebody was going to get into podcast production, what would be a positive ROI that they could do immediately?
Mm-hmm. I joined a couple of Facebook groups, like podcast editors and a podcast support group or something funny like that. And I don't want to say that I learned so much from being in these groups, but sometimes you just pick up like tidbits here and there, or like different tools that you can use to make your process a little faster, or just like different editing practices, things like that. So I would recommend looking into Facebook groups, because then you're not limiting who you're learning from to like who is already in your personal network, but like literally everyone in the world. And then you taught me this.
Uh-oh.
Tell people what you do and have somewhere to send them. Nothing was more embarrassing than whenever I first started my business and I would go to a networking event and people are like excited about podcast production. I say, I do podcast production. They're like, whoa, what? Like they hype me up. And they're like, well, are you on social media? Do you have a website? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, here's my cell phone number. Here's my email, like my Gmail. That was so embarrassing.
SpeakEasy Productions at Gmail or something?
No. It was just like Madison E McCann at gmail.com. Like that. And so now I have an actual website.
Okay.
SpeakEasyProductions.co. And
SpeakEasyProductions.co.
Yes, not .com. And I have an Instagram. I have a LinkedIn page. I don't use that. But
where else? So what's the Instagram handle?
SpeakEasyProductions.co. It's the same as my website. Okay. So now I have somewhere that I can send people to. And that is my advice to other people. Like, tell people what you do. Not just professionally, but like tell your family what you do and tell your friends what you do, because those are the people that are going to tell other people about what you're doing and maybe get you clients from it. And then one thing that I think a lot of people do not do this, and I know that because no one is doing it to me, but whenever I meet someone, I will find them on LinkedIn and I will send them a message and say, hey, it was great to meet you earlier today at such and such, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, you'll have a guest on the podcast and I'll reach out to Andrew Zito on LinkedIn and say, hey, it was great to see you. I already knew Andrew. We're probably already connected, but I'll just say, hey, it was great to see you. Just like actually connect with that person.
Yeah.
So that you show up in their feed. You can engage with the content that they're putting out. And it's just like, Andrew's going to walk out of here and like forget that I existed. Like,
that's not true.
I know, not about Andrew, but you know, like, I'm generally speaking, like, your guest is going to walk out of here and be like, man, I had a great time with Malcolm, and like forget about me because I'm just like sitting there like taking notes,
that's
you know? Well, okay. But listen, you have to remind people that you exist and you have to connect with them. And literally just a simple message like, hey, it was great to meet you. I would love to stay connected with you. I send that to every person that I meet.
I love that. I mean, it's kind of no brainer, right? Like,
but no one does it.
Tell people what you do and then stay in front of them.
Literally, no one does it. People don't think like, oh, I should go on LinkedIn and find this person and connect with them. Like, it's just not on their radar.
You're right. So I love that you're vulnerable enough to tell us that you were embarrassed you couldn't send anybody to a website. And you know what? It fucking happens, man. Like,
yeah, everyone has to start somewhere.
You got to start. And that's the thing that what I'm loving is you started. So I am guilty of, and I know everybody else is, if you're going to a room and it's super dirty and you say, I don't know where to start cleaning this damn thing. Well, just start. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I can remember back when we had the same, Chattanooga Home Inspector at gmail.com. And then my coach is like, you can get Malcolm at Chattanooga Home Inspector. That's really easy and it's professional. I'm like, holy shit, okay. So we all are guilty of that. And if you're not guilty of that, you probably didn't start.
Yeah, that's the advice that I heard all the time whenever I was starting my business is like, just start. And it's like that 0 to 1, that A to B is like the hardest step. But done is better than perfect.
Right.
So I just started, I would send people proposals, like scope of work and outlining pricing and stuff. And I look back at the first one I sent and I'm like, that is ugly as hell. I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I wrote it like that. But guess what? They still said yes. They didn't know that like I've improved so much. Like, just do it.
Just do it. The first home that I ever inspected, the very first one, burnt down. Yeah, my bad. Wow. Okay. But we started somewhere and now the process is like extremely streamlined. But like you said, done's better than perfect. Your to-do list is never going to be complete. And you know what? If your to-do list gets completed, you fucked up on making the to-do list. Like, you need to put more time into making the to-do list because that's just how you get started.
Yeah. And you said you have a coach. I don't really have like a formal mentor, but I think I've done a really good job of finding good people that I can trust for like different specific things. So I want to shout out Sarah Matson. Shout out Sarah. She used to be my coworker. And she taught me everything that I know about investing my money and like preparing for my future and also like everything business related. Like, I really trust her advice on things because she's been there, done that, and then now has a successful career. And Mike Costa, my first client, he really got me started. And it was really on accident. I don't know if you want to get into that story, but just having like good people that you know, like, and trust, it's so important as you're starting your journey.
You know, we're going to get onto this accident thing, but first, coaches. Like, I've been asked, what's the first thing you do when you sign up for a triathlon?
I think it's hire a coach.
Right. And
I probably wouldn't, I would have like gone to the gym or like hopped on the treadmill or something.
Right.
I don't know.
But then you realize you don't know how to swim, you know, great. But that always surprises me because a lot of people say that's the first thing I do is hire a coach. So you hire a coach to tell you how to put one foot in front of the other. You're hiring somebody to show you how to ride a bicycle. But what's the first thing you started to do when you started your business? I just winged it. Yeah. The fuck? Like, you are putting your livelihood, your family's ability to eat on the line, and you're not hiring a coach? Do you know how to file state income taxes? Do you know how to file your personality taxes? Do you know where to file the FEI or the F&E taxes? Do you know how to fill out an annual report for the state of Tennessee?
Well, I'm a special circumstance because my full-time job is with the Tennessee Small Business Development Center, and they literally are business consultants.
Okay. For any other listener that doesn't work for the state of Tennessee, no, the fact is you probably don't.
Yeah.
So it just blows my mind that people wouldn't hire a coach or, and I shouldn't say or, surround themselves with like great people.
Yeah. That was the best thing that I did for my business, is finding other people who are business owners and not even like asking them advice or anything, just like talking to them.
Sure.
Every time I meet with someone, I get like re-energized and I get new ideas.
That's great.
Yeah. And it's not even like, what should I do in my business? It's like you talking about your business, and I don't know what it is. It's something special about business owners.
Yep. I'll give a special shout out to Ken Compton, the Tom Ferry Network, and I love my current coach, Dan Deast. Thank you guys for what you do. You kind of, you help a lot of people. So thank you. We're going to move on to the accidental client. Okay. You said Mike Costa was your first SpeakEasy Production client by accident.
Yes.
Interest.
So I didn't wake up one day and be like, I'm going to start a business today.
Okay.
So through my full-time job, we had started a podcast in 2020, 2021. I can't remember exactly. And I am the person in the office that does not do business consulting. I handle everything else.
Okay.
So starting the podcast became my project. We did outsource the production and editing for the first season, but I was like the project manager on our team, like making sure that the behind the scenes happened. So my boss ran into Mike Costa, and Mike was like, hey, I know you guys have this podcast. I've been thinking about starting one for like 2 years now. Can you like give me some advice? Can I ask you some questions? And Lynn was like, well, Madison's really the person you need to talk to. So Mike and I sat down and we started talking about it. And he was like, well, do you think you could do this for me? Could you do the production and editing? And I was like,
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. So I went home, thought about it, came up with a proposal, like scope of work, pricing, and we talked through everything and started working together. And that was October of 22. And we launched his podcast in January, and boom, off to the races. It was like 4 months later, I signed on 2 more clients and then another client and, so on and so forth. And like, I accidentally started a business. Okay. And it wasn't like, oh, I learned how to do this podcast product. We ended up doing a second season in-house. So I did the production for that. We outsourced the editing. And then eventually, like, I learned how to edit too. So it wasn't really like, oh, this is like the path I'm taking. I'm going to learn how to do podcast production. It was just like an added responsibility in my job. And then someone asked me like, well, can you do this for me? And I was like, I guess. Yeah, sure.
I dig it. All right, Madison, is there anything else you would like our listeners to know about you and your business?
I don't even know if it's about me and my business, but I just really want to stress the importance of like doing things the right way from the beginning, because I know I hear all the time like, well, I don't have enough money to like hire an attorney. I don't have enough money to hire a CPA. And it's like, but you're not going to have the money to like fix that mistake later on. So I went to Autumn Whit Boyd's website. She's a local attorney. She does IP and she has contract templates on her website. Shout out Autumn Whit Boyd. And I bought I forget the name of it, but like a services contract agreement and proposal template. And now I know my bases are covered. Like there are not going to be any legal issues between me and a client because I invested, I hate to put a price on it in case she's gone up, but I think it was like $500. And I sleep easily at night knowing like I am not going to have any legal trouble. And I hired a CPA, Sean Stallings with Westridge Group. Shout out Sean Stallings.
Shout out.
And he handles my taxes for me. And he advised me on, quarterly estimated taxes and like answered literally all of my questions that I had. And now I know the IRS is not going to come after me. Like I've done everything the right way. But I know people are out there doing things and just like winging it.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't have the money. And it's like, but are you going to have the fees later that you're going to have to pay, like legal fees or taxes to the IRS? Like, just do it the right way from the beginning.
It's smart to surround yourself with a good team. You will pay dearly if you create a company and you bring on some partners and do some dumb shit like don't have an attorney, overview that. So
yeah.
We get that. Do you have a book recommendation for us?
Yes. Okay. I read a lot. And I thought long and hard about what I wanted this book recommendation to be. And I thought about for someone like my age or someone starting out on their small business journey, and the last thing on their mind is like retirement. They're like trying to make their business work, or, I'm 28 and I don't want to like put all my money away for retirement. But I read this book. Sarah Matson recommended it to me. I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. And it literally walks you step by step. Invest in your 401k match through your employer and not anymore. And then go invest in your Roth IRA. And if you have an HSA, do that. And then go back to the 401k. And then if you've done that, and it talks about like self-employed and all those things. And it was literally like the playbook of what to do.
Why don't they teach us that shit in school?
I don't know. Go buy this book on Amazon. It's like $20 maybe. I don't know.
I've already downloaded it.
Okay. I borrowed it from the library. Like I didn't even pay for it. But I got what I needed out of it. And just like investing for the future and not even for retirement, because I don't want to work forever.
Sure.
But just making sure like peace of mind is priceless.
It blows my mind. Investing in a matching 401k, no brainer, right? Okay. It blows my mind how many people at our company do not take advantage of our matching 401k. If I were to say, if you put $1, Madison, in your left hand, and I tell you, if you put that $1 there, I'll give you another $1 in your left hand, why would you not do that?
Yeah, especially because it's not just $1 for $1. It's going to compound over time.
I guess you could argue the fact of like, I don't believe in 401k. I don't believe in the, stock market or whatever, however your 401k is being invested. But I'm saying I'm giving you $1. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is invest your $1.
Yeah. For anyone who has like investment questions, you should follow Personal Finance Club on Instagram. I think his name is Jeremy. And he truly gives like, what's the word? He's not like making money off of you.
Okay.
He's literally just teaching you personal finances.
Personal Finance Club. Don't worry about balancing your checkbook in high school. So moving on. So Madison, our whole thing is go back to square one. So if you could go back to square one, and I'd love for you to actually tell us, we go back to square one, what would you tell your younger self? Would your square one be the beginning of your professional career or the professional of your podcasting, editing business?
Yeah, I want to go back to a year and a half ago whenever I started my business, because I had someone give me great advice. And it was that you can say yes for now. And I said no to opportunities that I should have said yes to.
Okay.
You know, so it just unlocked something in my brain that I can say yes and try things out and fail at them and then try something new. If I think something's not going to work out, I'm just very like risk averse.
Okay.
So yeah, just let yourself fail more. And then back to what we were talking about earlier, just like surround yourself with people who are on the same journey as you, like professionally, with people who are on like the business path.
Madison, I think you said it great. Like we say, you know, fail forward, don't be afraid to fail, you know, learn from failure. That's the whole premise of our podcast. But I love the way you just worded it. Specifically, you know, just say yes to the opportunity, right? If you fail later, fuck it. Like if you don't say yes to an opportunity, you're definitely going to say no to an opportunity.
Yeah.
There's a stoic way of saying like, there's one guaranteed way to not lose a tennis match.
Don't play.
Don't play.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah. Just try and like trust yourself.
Well, I love it, Madison. Thank you very much. Can you tell us, our listeners, again, how to get a hold of you?
Yeah, my website is SpeakEasyProductions.co, and you can find me on Instagram at the same, SpeakEasyProductions.co.
Cool. Thank you very much, Madison.
Thank
We appreciate you.
I enjoyed this being on the other side.
It was very fun. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Square One podcast, brought to you by Omni Home Services. We represent Chattanooga Home Inspector, Nuclear Pest Control, Elevate Home Staging Design, Radon Eraser, and hopefully more business entities in the future. We release a new episode every Thursday. If you like this episode, share it with your friends, neighbors, real estate agents, or whoever. Make sure you subscribe to Spotify, Apple, or wherever the hell you listen to your podcasts.